Mark Hope here. We're the co-administrators of Old Soul Sage Advice. And today we have our very first guest ever, and that would be Dr. Joe Shattuck. So a lot of people that know me know Joe. Joe has a remarkable story, and um, she was a great racquetball player. She's a great person. She has her own company now, and we're going to kind of go through little stages of life and give her an opportunity to talk about it. One of the things I don't think many people know is Joe was born in Mexico. She had she had some hippie parents, so she is technically was born in Mexico and came into, and correct me anytime, Joe, if I say something incorrect.
Sure.
They moved to Louisiana, and that's kind of where she grew up for the most part. And like Mark and like myself, she had more than her share of challenges growing up. And she's done more than a few things, and she's ended up in a good place. So, Joe, um, if you would like, just kind of talk about the going into Louisiana and how you got into racquetball and where that all headed.
Oh goodness. Okay. Well, uh, I was I don't know what kind of show this is, but I was smoking cigarettes behind the dumpster in the ninth grade or before that, and my mom, great lady, realized that that was probably not the best thing for me, and I was playing sports, junior varsity basketball, and I ran cross country. But anyway, she signed me up for a dozen different things to try to get me on a different path, and she signed me up for a racquetball league at the local place where Tracy Ingram and Molly O'Brien were pros there. Shout out to them if they're watching. And that's the first time I heard of pro racquetball. And I played, I don't know, 8-week league or something there and lost every game, zeros and ones, and fell in love with the sport. And then a few months later, I was in high school then, 17 years old, when I went to Louisiana Tech. Uh, they had 13 courts, 13 glass back courts. And so it was just a natural fit for me to keep playing and love the sport from there.
Yeah, and it I think you told me that when you went into the open division, you didn't want to match for like 2 years.
Yeah, I won Louisiana's most improved. I want to say in like 1989 or something. As an A player, started at C, ended up in A. Played my first open tournament 13 months after I picked up a racket, and then I lost 2 straight years. Didn't win a match. I mean, maybe got lucky with a game or two, but yeah, it was quick in and out. I don't know why I didn't. And it doesn't. But yeah, that's what
And then
happened.
and then I met Joe in 1995. That's when she moved to Colorado. Met her out at the Broomfield Athletic Club, I think, or I don't even know if that's what it was called at the time.
Hmm.
And I think she was the regional open winner that year.
That's my
And
first. Yep.
yep, and that kind of started our friendship. And we've been in touch off and on throughout. And I've watched her go from an amateur player to um, an outstanding teaching professional. Um, was on the pro tour. Pro tour is a tough deal,
Yeah.
and she had success. She was never number one. I think you said the year before you retired, you had reached number 6 in the ranking. Is that correct?
Yeah. I was like, I spent 10 years in the top 10 trying to get to number 5 or 4 or better. And I never did, but I was number 6 for a couple weeks after I made a couple semifinals. That was the peak there. But
So who was your toughest opponent through the years?
myself, of course,
Oh,
I
good
did.
answer.
I had already decided that, and obviously now looking back, I wouldn't know that, but there was some level of self sabotage in there. Like, um, I always identified as the underdog, as the person who's always struggling for something else. And if I succeeded, that would sort of shake my self identity or whatever. I mean, I could have maybe got to number 2 and then sabotaged to get number 1, but in any case, there's obviously at that level, physical skills are the same. It's kind of what's upstairs that makes it different.
You know, Doc, they mentioned imposter syndrome a lot in that vein. You
Yeah.
know, it's you just don't believe you're who you are. You know,
Yeah.
everyone else is looking at you and they're like, oh, look how successful he or she is. And then you're sitting here going, hey, I'm just a scruffy kid from the wrong side of the tracks. I'm not even supposed to be here.
Right.
And I think all of us have kind of felt that in our lives from one time to the other.
You know, that's an excellent point. Go ahead, Joe.
No, it makes sense. Is I'm not even supposed to be here, and that theme of that or underdog, or I don't know how I'm here in this room with all these people, but here I am. In fact, when I got I got accepted to PhD program in Nebraska, but only because and I like to tell the story, like I really carefully researched all the PIs and all the labs and their equipment and everything. And, you know, the community and the papers that came out of there and how I was going to get the best education. And then I chose Nebraska. But the truth is, I applied to like 18 places, and this was the only place that accepted me.
Right.
And I think it was a mistake because 2 weeks before that, I got a note that said I didn't get in. And then 2 weeks later, the guy I applied to called me and said, hey, congratulations. I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, you know, you got in. I'm like, well, that's funny because I got a letter from admissions that said I didn't. So I think what happened was they accepted somebody and that person passed, and then it went down to me. So I'm just happy to be here.
You know, it doesn't matter. I mean, you hear stories over and over about actors, actresses, how they get turned down for umpteen million roles, and then they are declined for a role they really want, and they get another role that they don't think is as big, and that one turns out to be a big deal.
Right.
And there you go.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it.
I mean,
yeah. That's correct.
It takes breaks. I think I probably have never told, but you know, I shot pictures at the John Dimmer Muppets special in the early 80s, and the only reason I ever had that opportunity is I was at the Hotel Jerome with a friend of mine. She knew everybody. Somebody offered for us to sit down and have a drink, and we did. And she goes, oh yeah, you know, John's a photographer. He's here for a racquetball tournament. He goes, oh, we're shooting the John Dimmer Muppet special tomorrow. Why don't you come out and take pictures?
Really?
Now, does anyone think if I wanted that job, I was going to be getting it? Yep. That's not how it works.
No.
And so there you go. So then next day I'm out there doing pictures, and you know, you got to put yourself in the position. You have to put yourself in the position to make something happen. It doesn't mean it's always going to happen, but it takes a lucky break. And Mark, you know as well as I do, if you play poker, the difference between winning and losing is not that you're a different player, but on one evening, you're getting the breaks. And you get that card. And then the next time you play the same way. And the same luck you had before, it's just not there. So anyway, I'm proud of you. I think it's a great story. And here's another thing about Joe that I admire, and I kind of knew this, but there was a time when she was transitioned, when she was first in Denver, she actually lived in a camper with no electricity. Had her dog, Stony.
Yeah.
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 And right. At night, she would clean the carpets in the Lakewood Athletic Club. And she was just a hard-working gal. And she stuck with it and did what she needed to do to be on the pro tour. And then somewhere in there, I think you told me 2009, she got a real quote, real job. And it was being a research assistant.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she
And
went
it,
down. Yeah. Talk about that.
it wasn't, so I lived in a camper, the 2008 crisis. I had somehow scraped together enough to get a small home, and the interest rate went to 11%. So I couldn't afford to live there and do the tour. So I bought a little 1973 Holiday Rambler and parked it at the shores of the gates of the lake right by C470 in Hamden, and paid $100 a month and lived in there with just a generator, for occasional electricity, whatever. But anyway,
Did you sell the
yeah, I
house
did
or
that.
did you rent it? What did you do with the house?
I rented it out.
Okay,
Out so that I
okay.
could pay for the more. Yep. And did that for 2 years with my dog Stoney. I sent you a picture recent or whatever it was. Anyway, but actually that was after my tour, after my pro career is when I got my first real job as a research assistant at CU Anschutz. And I was so excited I've always wanted to be in neuroscience, always wanted to do research, and I just offered to work for free to Dr. Benzie Kluger, who's still my mentor and my friend. And he hired me. I don't know why still, but it worked out. And 4 years to the day after that job, I went to Nebraska, my graduate studies in neuroscience.
Oh, we may have lost your. Did we lose your sound?
Here I am.
Okay, good. Cool.
Okay. Yeah.
Well,
I think
that-
the audio goes to sleep or whatever if you don't touch your screen for a little bit.
Okay.
But
So- go ahead. Mark.
the fact that famous people or successful people had to do what they had to do is a common stream with everyone. And, don't compare your insides with somebody else's outsides because, we all had it. I started a multi-million-dollar computer business in 1994. We didn't know it was going to be a multi-million-dollar computer business, but
Right.
I stocked shelves in a liquor store after I quit my job from corporate America to start the computer store.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't getting a salary from the company, so I needed to make some money, and I was stocking, beer in a liquor store at night while I was working at the computer store during the day. So, I think if people are honest and they share their story, everyone has that carpet cleaning story in their history. And the ones that don't quit are the ones that have a different story, an additional working at Anschutz story. You have to complete the carpet cleaning to get to the other one.
Yeah, and I have a phrase it's called hugging pot. So it was so cold, as you know, Denver winters. So I had a cast iron pot. Right before bed, I would heat it up on my little stove in the camper, and then wrap it in a towel, and then go to bed hugging with it this way, so I could stay
Just
warm.
to stay warm.
Yeah, it was a ridiculous time in my life, but I loved it. Right, like I was getting to do what I wanted to do.
Don't you think that it's those moments that make you appreciate everything you've accomplished, and you're far from what you're really going to accomplish in my mind.
Thank you.
But don't you think that just makes you more thankful for the climb as opposed to being given something? I mean, you had an interesting upbringing somewhere in there. You turned a corner. You started pursuing one thing that led to another, that led to where you are right now. So do you think your background kind of is one of the motivators?
Absolutely. And they say, like, shows like this and some other shows that show a true path, right? Not just all the glamour. And Mark, I've been to Action Computers. I probably went there a few times, and when I first moved to Denver, and I can't remember where it was, but I remember, I know exactly.
Colorado Boulevard.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mark was the master of computers. I met Mark at the Aurora Athletic Club. And when I would do tournaments, they would pitch in. If I had computer questions, which I had a lot because I knew nothing, I knew I could depend on Mark to answer. Matter of fact, I've told Mark, I said that the one thing somebody said to me about computers, and I'm talking a long time ago, that made me go, oh, I get it now, was I didn't understand anything. Then one time Mark and I are talking, he probably didn't even remember it. And he said, John, think of your computer as a giant filing cabinet.
Okay.
And you create a folder and you put the folder in the filing cabinet. And then you may want to put other things in that file. And you can put them in there. And right then and there, I knew I didn't have a career as a software developer, but I knew that at least I could go, oh,
yeah.
okay, I kind of get that.
Uh-huh.
So,
You know,
so,
and
yes.
everything in life is that simple. If there's somebody that really understands, neurology, and they can explain it to you in a way that you understand, right, Doc?
Mm-hmm.
You can get it. And once you get it, then you buy into the process and you make progress,
Right.
and it's the people that don't crack their shell that won't learn. A good buddy of mine was a very successful commercial real estate agent, like the most successful one for a time in Denver. And he refused to learn how to do email until finally the brokerage said, look, we're not going to pay for you a secretary anymore. You're going to have to learn how to do email.
Yeah.
Because he would have the secretary get the email, call him, tell him what the thing was, dictate back, and she would send the email. And he was successful enough that he got away with that for a number of years until finally he was the last one in the office. And it's like, you have to start doing your own email.
Yeah. And now you can just speak it anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but
now we have the AI assistants, and
but you damn well better look at what it's transcribing, because what you say and what it does can be two entirely different things. I have a friend who texts her emails. Sometimes I have to respond and say, was this sent by an alien, or what exactly are you saying to me? Well, listen, let's jump to something else here. So, and I know you can explain this in layman's terms to everybody, but Joe has a company called Panther Tech. I kind of basically understand what it does. I think, and she will elaborate, but I believe they kind of hook you up. They take you through your sport. You find the right way to do something. And I'm going to let it go to you to really explain it.
All right. Yeah,
and
I can
explain what the CAT, right? KAT?
Yeah.
Yeah.
CAT stands for Kinesthetic Awareness Training. And kinesthetic awareness is knowing where your body is in time and space, your hands, your feet, your head, right? One example I like to use is, if anybody ever tripped up a curb or downstairs, and when you trip up a curb, two things happen. One, your model of the world and where the curb was in that little map you had in your brain was incorrect, or your own model of where your own foot was in the world was incorrect. And when you trip up a curb and your groceries go everywhere, you are instantly recalibrated as to where stuff is in the world. The curb, your foot. All the CAT does, and I have it here, it's a little device, wearable device. It's one with a phone, you can see it here. It knows its own place in space. So you might put it on your head or your chest or your arm or your racket or your hip. And whenever you teach it what you want it to learn, and then it teaches it back to you with vibrations you feel through different motors in the cat. So one example of use would be, John, your racket prep is horrible. You had the racket behind your ear. Let's get you used to holding it out here. So you would touch the cat, press a button here, not here, here, not here. And it's the similar, I won't get too neuroscience-y, but the mechanism of motor learning is, error prediction model is, you compare where you are to where you think you are. Just like you trip up a curb, you think you're going to clear it, and when you don't, you learn a lot about your place in the world. And that's all a cat does. Kinesthetic awareness training. The difference in some other, say, movement training aids, and Mark, I don't know what kind of sports you play or not, but you might see something you put on your arm that keeps your arm in a certain place for your putt or for your drive, or some sort of strap that keeps your shoulders back. All those things have knowledge in them already. A movement educator decides this is how you should swing a golf club, or this is how you should sit. The cat doesn't have any of that in it. So it doesn't replace any trainer or physical therapist. It augments what would normally be taught, but without the movement educator having to keep repeating, okay, that's too high, okay, that's too low, okay, use these words. We often use verbal cues to try to teach someone. Push, pull, extend, press. And it's really hard to translate a word into a sensation. And so what our product does is that it eliminates that extra layer of translation. So you get the aha face.
So maybe a golfer would have one on their wrist.
Yes.
And the pro would say, you know, here's where I want you in your backswing or whatever.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, I really do need to do this in the spring for golf.
Yeah. And we put it on a golfer's head. We put it on the bicep here to get rid of the up and over when you swing. We put it here for posture, and this is all golf related. We put it on the lead arm, to be aware of where your club face is. So almost anywhere.
Now, is this product something that we buy, or is it something that you sell with a service? Tell me how do we get involved in your product?
Sure. Our customers are movement educators, coaches, physical therapists, and so that's our B2B, and they can sell directly to their clients or students or patients, B2B2C. But yeah, website, you buy this, you get an app that you can use with the cat. You can use up to 3 at a time. And we provide an onboarding and then essentially show you how to use the cat in your craft. You still provide the expertise of what you're going to teach or not teach. And then your student can take it home and use it, or you can just use it in your clinic or in your gym.
So do you have a lot of golf professionals that are using it in their practice?
Well, we have some. We're brand new, so we're just finishing our beta launch. We started earlier this year. Full launch this quarter, and we have 2 patents already, a European patent pending, a couple other U.S. patent pending as well, and we're looking to launch our final, our finished product, like I said, in Q1 next year. But golf, tennis, rehab, there's a couple of clinical case studies happening now in movement disorders and also rehab. I'm actually writing a grant for NASA, believe it or not, and I can't believe I get to say this, but astronauts have different sensory motor input in space than they do on Earth. So we proposed a pre-proposal to use the cat to train astronauts to move when they land on different surfaces. Just a couple days ago, they said, yeah, we'd like to see a full proposal. So we're writing that up. So
now my daughter is a neurologist and she's doing a fellowship for MS right now. She's doing a year for MS training. Is this something that we could get her involved in, helping her MS patients?
Absolutely. In fact, I'm trying to find some, well, it's easy to find places, but some people that get it to use it and also participate in our study. So if she does any kind of PT or she knows some PTs, one way to get used to it is to, it's remote control too. So if her MS patient is in Canada and she's here with our third-party software, I can control the cat that you have. So essentially telerehabilitation. I'm happy to chat with you offline and share that.
So Joe,
yeah.
what can we do to help you with your business?
Excellent question. You can keep.
I am.
having
Do you need me?
They're gonna give us the class on this.
Okay.
I can do it though.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Huh.
We're getting a new fireplace installed, and my wife is talking to the guys about the class.
Okay. No worries. Okay. So you can visit the website, panthertech.net. You can talk to or share our information with.
And we're going to put all of that in the show notes.
Okay.
And, hopefully we'll work on some social media appliances for
Sure.
you so
Sure.
that, a lot of times that information nowadays, you used to think having a website would do it for you, but
Right.
really it's the social media now that leads people to the website to get the answer. By the time they get to the website, they've already decided what they want to do and they
Yeah.
want to order. So
Exactly.
for you, I think a couple of short videos of how this thing works, and then maybe a couple of conversations with coaches and doctors and somebody else saying, here's what we're doing.
Mhm.
And again, we get back to that edutainment.
Oh, I love that word.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
we're
Yeah.
trying to teach some things, but it's very, in this case, probably change somebody's life because they're struggling right now with something that they can't
Yeah.
figure out how to do, especially
Right.
if they're younger child. I would think, hey, Susie, let's put this on here so that we can learn how to correct the, whatever. And then she gets a little buzz and then she's playing and all of a sudden, we're improving that gait or we're doing,
Exactly. That's exactly it. We had a drop foot case where I don't know if you know about
there you
drop
go.
foot. But
Yeah.
you can't force a foot, right?
That's an MS thing.
Yeah, that's the first thing I thought of is that I'm happy to see if there's a use.
And I will definitely get you together with Dr. Lindsay and you guys can talk about what you're doing. How much is it?
So our early adopter units right now, $500.
Okay.
Gives you
That's reasonable.
early adopter unit, like I said. And the annual software update is $200 for the year. But here's the deal. Whatever you buy now, you don't have to keep paying to keep the features you have. So it's not like if you stop paying, the cat stops working. When you buy now, you get the features that come with the app. If you want to
Copy that.
upgrade the other features like remote control, like cued practice, like data storage, using two or three cats at a time.
Well, what I'm thinking about is, do we get into the reasonable range where, we actually put it on somebody to get them to stop sucking their thumb? When we're doing that, kind of training with some of the children that,
Right.
are not communicating, whether
Right.
it's due to age or it's due to some other problem. But if they get used to, associating that buzz with some kind of a geofence, in the house, like don't go over to the stove or, different things, we can utilize that geolocation to train on all sorts of levels. Right, Doc?
Yes, ours is not a geolocator. Think of it more of as a motion capture for your limbs in your own, or let's see, how do you call it? You might be familiar with GPS, which tracks obviously cars on a highway, football players on a field. Ours is like a GPS, but just for your body in your own space.
Just for your positioning.
Yeah, positioning,
Okay.
acceleration, speed, right.
Well, maybe somebody that is sleeping incorrectly,
Mhm.
say they're not supposed to have a surgery and they're not supposed to sleep on their back. we could get them
I think a
a
better
buzz.
I think a better way to think of it is intermittent training. So, for example, we had a couple of cases with cervical dystonia where your neck is in this position, and this lady had a surgery and she was learning to walk upright. And obviously, this affects your balance and everything. So we put one here to alert her when she was tipping over too much, and then one on her head that she would be able to walk better. Another one was, like I said, that drop foot of it's an increased fall risk, obviously, when you have the drop foot. This particular person had the pathways intact, so they were able to do this with their foot. And so it alerted them like, hey, this is what it feels like when I have drop foot. Keep in mind, it's not what you think of a wearable sensor that you wear it all the time. We don't want you dependent on it. We want you to learn how the new motor pattern feels, and then you'll do that on your own. So you
Okay.
might put here for something, put it on your foot for something else. So it's a movement education tool, not a crutch or a brace that you would wear the whole
Well, Mark, we're probably getting close to time, aren't we?
We are over, as we always are with our fascinating guests. Let me tell you, it's so neat to talk to people and their, not only their history of what they're doing, but what they're doing now that is so exciting to me. It's great. And Dr. Joe, we're gonna put the things in the show notes for you, so people that are watching the rewatches of all these shows will be able to get together with you. And I had a share screen, I think, of you in action.
Well, that was a teat. I have a final question, Joe.
Yeah.
There she is.
Yep.
Ah,
Teaching racquetball.
my racquetball days. Yep. That's
Yep.
it.
Had a hard time getting the pictures you sent, so I grabbed the few that I had, and I would like to leave with this. So, Joe, if you were going to say, what's the one word or one phrase that you would say about yourself to this point, what would that be?
One word, 3 letters. It would be try. Just try. You ever seen those what do you call it, like a flow chart, like if this, yes or no, and then you do the same, right? You just have one for your life, and it's just try. If it's no, there's nothing else. There's nowhere to go if you don't try, right? And so that's actually my next tattoo is I feel like, and it's funny that you say that. That's the first time I've said that out loud. That's been in my brain for a long time. But yeah, it's just try. You have to try.
It's a great philosophy. Okay, I think you did good, Mark.
Dr. Joe, we'd love to have you on the show again. Maybe in the future, you can tell us all about what's going on and catch us up in your life. And we absolutely are here for you, whatever we can do to help you guys down at the lab. And reach out to us. You're part of the Mark Hope family now, and we really want to support you in what you're doing.
Well,
Hey,
careful.
Joe, put in a good word for me, because I just sent my application to be an astronaut with NASA, and so I could really use your support.
Talk about full circle. They shot a monkey into the space when they first started that. Now we're back to it.
Me. That was not me.
All right, Joe.
Okay.
Thank you for having me, Mark. Thank you for having me, John. You're a dear friend. Mark, it's great to make a new friend here, and let's stay in touch.
Absolutely. Thanks for being on the show.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Okay. See you, Mark.
All right, buddy. That's a great show. Have a good one.